All right, here we go. This is, well, welcome to Slavko channel. This is going to be one of a kind review here for our trials bikes. We've got all the heavy hitters running up against each other. We ride them. We feel certain differences. Some people say, hey, you know what? These bikes are all the same or very close to each other. Just pick whichever one feels the best for you. And I gotta say, yeah, they're pretty close. But man, oh man, there's a few little differences that you'll see right away from doing overlays that kind of make sense. They really they make a difference when you ride. We're talking about your rake angles. You can see how much clearance you got under the skid plate, where the foot pegs are positioned, how long is the whole chassis, the whole frame from axle to axle. Those things, they make a huge difference. That is besides the motor and transmission, clutch, whatever else. But today we're strictly going to focus on the geometry. And I think this is actually a great comparison. This hasn't been done before. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to go online. I'm going to download all their side photos as to the best. It's going to be a little bit of variance there. But I don't have actual sketches. Brands will never release the sketches of the motorcycles uh, for obviously, to protect their designs. But I've got the side shots, the profile shots. I've tried finding the best ones where you can see the forks are in line. That means the bars are not turned fairly even on the grips over here. So that should give us a pretty close idea on the differences between the brands. Like I said, we got all the heavy hitters here. We got the 2020 Gas GP. This is just a TXT model. I believe is, yeah, it doesn't matter. Geometry is all the same. We've got the good old betas. Betas are just amazing. They've been around for a long time. They haven't changed much with the betas. We've got a Vertigo. I believe it's a 2020 Vertigo. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, for the most part, the Vertigo frames are pretty close to the original design. There might be slight differences. I haven't been able to find too many files online that I could throw in here as a comparison. We've got a 2019 TRS. This one is probably the best image I could find where the forks are not skewed to the side too much. So we'll work with that. I've got a different TRS image as well, which is right here. The forks, you can see the bars are turned a little bit because I can see the back fork leg and the front fork leg. So that does change a little bit. However, it's not going to change your angle. Your angle, the head tube is still going to stay the same. What might change is a little bit longer chassis, the wheelbase. So, but then again, this is minor. So we'll work with the 2019 version. Then we've got the good old Sherco. Should be the same as the Scorpa. I do know that the Sherco frame is different from the Scorpa right around here in this area, but everything else should be the same. The gas tank, airbox, fender, everything fits together. So we got the Sherco in there, and we've got the controversial, everybody talks about it, that notices, we got the 23 gas, which is right here. Beautiful bike. They've added a removable section here on the front of the frame, and then we've got a 2023 Sherco, which also has the removable section on the frame here. And from the first glance, you would say, hey, those frames are pretty darn similar. What's going on? Well, the rumor has it, and it's just a rumor, it's not, don't hold me down to it. Potentially, whoever is making the frames for those companies, this could be done at the same factory. And Gas and Sherco have gone to the same people to make the frames for them. It does happen. This is no different than sharing the same brakes and other components on these bikes between all the brands. So there could be similarities, but I guarantee you when we put them side by side, you'll see differences. So let's start. Let's see. You know what? The two big spectrums, I will start with those, and that would be the Beta. The Beta we all know has a stubby rake, and I've noticed that it was my first bike. That I never had confidence in the front end. I'm a heavier guy as well, so if I don't have heavy springs up front, for me, that um, straight up, a more straight up rake angle is actually not very comfortable to ride because you end up hitting square edges on the bottom. If you're coming down something steep and you've got a square edge right on the bottom, the way the bike behaves, it's not very trustworthy. It feels like it's going to throw you over the bars. So we're going to take the Beta, and I know for a fact from experience by owning a Vertigo that the Vertigo felt way more raked out and roomier. So we're going to do side by side comparison. So if I zoom in, okay, so big difference here on the rake. You can see, so I'm gonna toggle off the Vertigo. You can see the Beta rake is fairly, let's just call it steep, less slack, and the Vertigo is way more slack. You can see this fork right here. That's quite a bit of a difference. I don't have a protractor option on here. That would be a good one to find out. I'm gonna see if I can figure something out just from the photos later on. Maybe I'll throw it in the comments. But anyways, that's the Vertigo here. You can see everything's lined up axle to axle. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Another huge difference that you will notice is the overall length of the wheelbase. I'm going to toggle this out. So I'm actually going to throw in we're going to put in a dot right on this layer right here. Let's just take this out. I want to see kind of how far the difference is, and I think it's going to be quite significant here. Is it going to let me draw? Yes, there you go. Okay, cool. We're going to toggle the Vertigo on there, and that is a big difference. So between the slack head tube angle and where your wheelbase is significantly longer, so that makes the Vertigo turn the way it does. It takes a little bit. It feels like it needs more space to turn. Where the Betas, they're like right now, boom, you're turning. There is no, you don't need as much. You don't need a soccer playing field to turn your bike around. So that's the axle difference. For the, you can see the seat height. This is actually quite interesting. I've noticed. I haven't really reviewed this a whole lot, so we're doing this live kind of as we speak. So I did notice a few differences on the clearances. From even where the pegs are to where the skid plates are, and also the cavities. So there's a huge difference you'll see between the Sherco and the TRS. The cavity height is a huge difference, which I guess if you're a shorter person and you're riding a Sherco, that might be somewhat of an issue, maybe if you're on a steep hill and you're stuck. So let's toggle that. So you can see the Vertigo cavity is actually quite a bit lower. I'm going to take the opacity out of the Beta. Yeah, so the Beta cavity, I'm going to just drop right down the center right here. And I'm going to toggle onto the Vertigo cavity. And we're going to do that right here. Boom. That is a big difference. Don't know. the exact measurement. Obviously, we're just doing it off the photo, but this is probably the closest comparison that I've ever seen between all the brands, the leading brands right now for trials bikes. So we're gonna toggle the beta. I want to see kind of where this skid plate sits. So this Vertigo being lower, you're getting a lower center of gravity. You can see right here where the beta tank would be. Vertigo put the airbox in here. That drops down the weight. They fit the gas tank in the frame, so this is already sitting way lower. So here you have fuel for the beta, and the rest of the fuel for the Vertigo is sitting down lower. I'm just going to take those scribbles off here. I would like to see where that skid plate is sitting, so I'm going to give the beta some opacity right now. I'm going to take some opacity out of the Vertigo. Okay, so you can see the Vertigo clearance is quite a bit lower. Pretty much same, almost the same difference as the cavity to the skid plate. Same goes for the foot peg. So the whole bike generally, the Vertigo sits lower, more planted. It feels more planted, and that's the feedback you get out of it. It does, if you're trail riding, it will make a difference. You got less clearance. You know, if you just riding around, you don't want to be bashing into stuff. So that will make a difference. So we've got that. Okay. Let's do this. What do you think we should do? You know what? Let's put the Vertigo off to the side here. We'll give it opacity. We'll just turn it off for a sec. And then we'll give we'll give the TRS a bit of a chance here. Okay. So yeah, the TRS, you can see the TRS sits quite a bit lower. And I do notice that with my TRS, even though I've got the heavier springs on the bike for my weight, I'm 250 pounds. There's a little bit of a difference here. Okay, we got a little bit of a difference in tire. It's not major, but you can see the skid plate. You can see the cavity. I'm going to take away the opacity on the beta. We'll just use the beta as our baseline. All right. We'll toggle. Okay, that's quite a bit of a difference. You know what? The TRS, let's give it a different color. So the blue was the Vertigo. Let's just go for, we don't have the red. Let's use the red for the TRS. And I'm gonna go right here in the cavity, right down the center. This is the lowest one yet. No, this kind of turned out brown. Yeah, it's not that great. There we go. We'll do a point right here. So that's right at the bottom of the cavity. The skid plate is lower, quite a bit lower. Yeah, you can see the beta would be here, and the TRS is lower. The rake, this is the interesting one. See if we can spot a difference. Oh, certainly yes. You can see the rake is different. Give the beta more opacity. Yeah. So the rake difference, I'm going to throw a Vertigo in there. Yeah, the Vertigo is probably the very similar. No, the Vertigo would be more. It looks like there is more rake on the Vertigo. Turn off the TRS. Not by much, but there is a difference. So the TRS does feel raked out. When you ride, it doesn't feel as if it needs more. Well, that's why the wheelbase on the Vertigo is a little bit longer. I would say, you know what, when I measured it in the garage between the Sherco and the Vertigo, I just measured it with a tape measure, center to center of the hubs. I've got an inch difference between the Sherco and the Vertigo. The Vertigo was an inch longer wheelbase, and that makes a huge difference. So we'll toggle off the Vertigo. We can see with the TRS, what else can we compare? Handlebars are very close position. The Beta, obviously, yeah, being a stubbier rake, it moves your bars forward more. So it does feel a little bit roomier for the riders who are taller. And when we get to the Sherco, you will see, and I always felt the Sherco was a little bit cramped for me, and that makes sense. A little bit more rake on the Sherco. We'll get to it in a second here. What else can we compare it to? So the skid plate is lower on the TRS. Okay, cool. So we've got the colors here just for the cavity of the seat. We'll toggle off the TRS. We'll get to the gas. Oh, the gas is very interesting. Very interesting. And I did scale this the best I could, but it looks like the rear tire and the gas is a little bit different. The front one, I got it matching pretty good. Yeah, the front is matched. And you know, don't hold me to it, guys. This is actually, I'm moving the wrong one. I gotta line up the Beta. There we go. I was moving the wrong image, and I had them all lined up pretty darn good, except for the gas was a little bit out. Okay, it was good. Okay, let's move the gas around. See where we need to line up. All right. This is really odd how the rear tire is a bit out of scale. So they could have had the bike skewed a little bit left to right, which will make this tire look like it's smaller. But other than that, it doesn't matter. So the interesting part is, I would say the gas is about a midpoint of the rake angle between the TRS and the Beta. It's kind of down the middle. Yeah, the TRS is a little bit more raked out. The Vertigo is the most raked. The clearance. Let's see where we are in the cavity here. The gas is pretty low. It looks like it's the same. Yep, same as the TRS. That's interesting. But you get a little bit more clearance on the bottom right here under your skid plate. Where if I toggle the TRS, it says pretty darn low. And I can tell that when I'm riding, I'm always hitting, especially right here, with the nicely painted areas. You've got beautiful powder coating on the frame. Within first 10 minutes of riding, you're kind of catching these little ears right here under the foot pegs. Very annoying because the bike looks like crap. So the gas having a pretty nice low cavity, you still have good clearance under the bike. I love it. That's awesome. That's important without sacrificing anywhere else. The pegs, well, that's another location to look at. So we got the gas and the Beta on right now. We'll flag the TRS off. The pegs. Okay, well, the gas and the Beta, you can see the pegs on the gas, actually on the Beta. Let's see. I'm gonna, the Beta is yellow. So I will paint yellow on kind of the center of the foot peg. That will be our Beta. And then we'll get to the gas. And what color are we going to pick for a gas? It's also red. Sure. I'll just pick red. We'll flash the Beta off. Very close. It's a little bit lower further back. That gives you a little bit of a different balance point. That's very interesting. And where is the TRS sitting with that? Same. So the gas and the TRS foot peg positioning is the same. That is very cool. I like that. We'll toggle the beta on. Back to the gas. You get a little bit less space in the cockpit right here. So, well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gas might be one of the only bikes that gives you adjustability on your headset right here for your handlebars. You can actually flip this clamp and it moves the handlebars forward. I don't have the same capabilities. I don't have that on my Scorpa. I don't have it on my TRS. I don't remember seeing it on the Vertigo. And the betas, well, the lower end betas, I believe they're cast triple trees, or cast at least for the older bikes. The new bikes might be a little bit different. So the gas does give you that ability. So if you think, oh, these handlebars are sitting too far back, you can flip this clamp and it'll move you forward. So if you're a taller rider, bigger rider, that's a good adjustability to have. Gas gets a 1.1 point for that. That's great. I love it. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, we'll toggle off the gas. We'll move on to the good old Sherco. The Shercos are amazing, but you'll see quite a bit of a difference on some stuff. So I would say the Sherco is very close to the Beta. Where are we sitting right now? Cavity wise, we'll toggle off the Beta. Well, the cavity is tall. So the Beta and the Sherco both have tall cavities. The foot pegs, you can see right here, the foot pegs are landing pretty much the same for both of these bikes. We can go back to the Vertigo and see where the foot pegs are. The clearance, actually, it'll be interesting to see what color is my Sherco. It's kind of white. Okay, we'll pick we'll pick a gray color. I just want to see where we are with clearances. So we'll go right down the middle of the skid plate on that. Go back to the Beta. We'll get that on there just as a comparison. Oh, I drew it on the wrong layer. Sherco, gotta toggle Beta. Okay, that is where the skid plate is. We'll toggle the Beta on. So the Beta actually sits higher. The Beta has the highest clearance so far. I thought the Sherco was the one, but so out of the two bikes, that's great. If you're trail riding, you've got clearance. And if you're a heavier rider, where you even say you don't have the proper suspension, you're going to be sagging a little bit more on your back end, you're going to have still more clearance than other bikes. Okay, the rake. Well, the Sherco has a fairly good rake, and that you can see that exactly explains why the Sherco and the Scorpa feel like you're a bit out of room. So the handlebars come back quite a bit, and we saw that with the gas. It's about the same location for the gas handlebars. I'm just toggling the gas in the mix right now. So the gas and the Sherco, they have the same handlebar positioning. The downside to the Sherco is you cannot adjust your clamps. So you could potentially you could machine new clamps that are offset just to bring you out a little more. But it's nice to have a bike right from factory that gives you that capability. It's you're a taller rider. I've seen a lot of guys on through videos, and you can tell, okay, they're a bit taller, and they don't look very comfortable on that bike. It looks cramped. But then you look Vertigos, and you got shorter guys riding Vertigos. It's like, oh wait, that bike looks huge. How tall is that guy? So let's toggle the Vertigo in the mix, and yeah, the Vertigo bars are about at par with Sherco. Still the longest wheelbase. And let's toggle off the Sherco and the Beta. I just want to see where the wheelbase is for the Vertigo. We'll give it a green color. It's kind of reddish green, but yeah, we'll go for green. So that's down the axle. Okay, and then that's Vertigo, and we'll get the Sherco back in here. So the Sherco wheelbase is kind of in the middle in between the Beta and the Vertigo. Makes the bike, the Sherco does turn really well. It doesn't feel bulky when you're doing tight turns. I gotta say that. Back to the Beta. Get the Vertigo. Vertigo's off. What else can we see? So the cavity is about the same. You can even see the fender line. Sherco and the Beta, very, very close angles. A little more rake. How do we compare? Let's do this. Let's turn off the Beta and compare the rake. So I would say the Sherco is pretty raked out. Same angle as the TRS on the head tube. And then you throw a Vertigo in the mix. See what we can see a little bit of a difference there. Okay. Yeah, you can see a little bit more rake. It looks very similar here at the bottom, but as that distance grows, you can see, especially at the top of a tube, it rakes out a bit more. So yeah, the Vertigo is the champion of the rake. That's pretty amazing. I love doing this. This is something that it should have been done a long time ago, and for people to see the huge differences. Oh, what am I doing here? I didn't want that. All right, let's zoom out. How about we compare? Okay, so we got the Vertigo and the Sherco. How about we do Vertigo and the TRS? Boom. All right, looks pretty good. Let's toggle them a little bit. Vertigo, TRS in the mix. The TRS is a little bit shorter wheelbase. Actually, quite a bit shorter. Let me throw a color on the TRS here. We'll go for red. Nope. Yeah, you can see just the way the bike sits. It's not quite lined up to the camera, but it's very close. And if the manufacturers want to actually throw some profile view drawings my way without any dimensions, I don't care about your dimensions. Nobody's going to be stealing your designs. Just send them to me, and then that way we can actually put them properly together, scale to scale, and do comparisons. So we'll get the TRS on. So the two new bikes that are out, and which came out this year for 2023, they will have new frames. Let's toggle them out. It will be the brand new. No, that's not even the one. What am I doing? It's right here. So it's the new Gas. Oh, what a beautiful bike. And we're gonna throw a new Sherco in the mix. This is This is an interesting one. And one thing. Oh, I know what I'm missing. I'm missing a Montesa in here. We'll add a Montesa here in a little bit. So we're gonna do a comparison. We're gonna toggle the Sherco in the mix. Boom. And I can probably line up the Sherco layer a little bit. I've already done my best to line them up. Because if I go axle to axle, something is skewed a little bit. I'm just trying to line up the outer edges of the tire as probably the closest I will get. All the forks are the same, so in theory you could line up axle to axle, but it's just throwing everything else off the alignment here. So we've got, well, guess what? The gas is hosting a longer chassis. And what I'm seeing is that the Sherco, that's a shorter chassis, that's a shorter frame than the Beta, or about almost the same. That's the Toggle in the Beta. Exact same clearances on the skid plate. The cavity is quite tall, so we'll toggle the gas back in, and that is a huge difference you'll see right now. So the cavity, that's a thing. It gives you, it's not even about the clearance for your groin. It's about where that tank is sitting. It's sitting lower. It's tucked in more to the frame, and that puts down a lower center of gravity on the bikes. Let's toggle these guys again. Yeah, you can see, even though we're lined up on the axle, oh no, the wheelbase is at par with the Vertigo for the new gas. I like it. You know, I rode it for a few minutes. That new gas, the frame, everything felt so good about it. It felt smooth. It felt balanced. It wasn't tossing you around everywhere. And that probably explains why. These guys are running the same rake. We've got the same head tube angle. The slight difference you will see is the offset of the triple clamps. So it looks like the Sherco has a little bit more offset from the center of the head tube stem to the center of the stanchions. That's very interesting. And these are the little differences. I'm gonna pause this video. I'm gonna line up the Montesa into the mix because we haven't done a Montesa, and it's kind of like the underdog. It just sits there quiet until it attacks. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna compare it to the mix. We'll be back in just a short little moment. Okay, we're back with the additional underdog. It is the Montesa 301 RR. So I don't think they've changed the frames much since 2015, 2016. Matter of fact, they could be all the same. Obviously the older Montesas, they've had their differences. I don't know a whole lot of the history on them. So this was very interesting, and it makes you think, okay, well, where is the Montesa getting its stability from? Is it getting it from the four-stroke motor? The bike is heavier, but it's stable. And I'm not throwing a Beta four-stroke into this mix here. Beta four-strokes, I don't know. There's not many people that ride them. You guys are all going to get pissed off and you're like, yeah, I own one. It's not as popular. I've seen only a few around. It probably is very similar geometry, a few different changes here and there. That's why I'm not going to throw it in there with the Beta. But this Montesa, I did notice something really cool. The bike is stable. I got to tell you that. And you would think, okay, it's a four-stroke motor, the way the bike behaves, that's what gives it its stability. Well, I just did that, and I compared it to the Vertigo. And the rake angle is at par with the Vertigo. You can see right here. So stability comes from that alone. You're raked out. You're a little more stable. The Well, the chassis, well, the length of the chassis, that is shorter. So that makes things kind of interesting. You've got the Beta right here, and we're going to toggle the Beta on. You can see what a difference on the rake. The chassis, the length of the chassis is pretty much bang on the same. The Montesa is a little bit lower down on the skid plate. You got less clearance, so the bike is lower to the ground, lower center of gravity. Obviously, the motor itself, you know, being a heavier four-stroke motor, that's going to give you more weight down at the bottom. That's going to make the bike more stable. But it's the steering. It's where you notice it the most. So you got a raked out bike, you hit some baby heads on a downhill, or you climbing something, that gives you stability. That's very interesting. The cavity is kind of in between. It's a little bit lower than the Beta. And the bottom is lower. The foot pegs, foot peg positioning seems to be pretty close with all the bikes. You know, the gas there. The gas has the lower foot pegs. Beta that's the yellow one. Vertigo foot peg is further back. What do we name Vertigo? Green. Okay, sure, we'll give it green. And we'll give it a paint. So that's the Vertigo foot peg. Boom. Okay, we got the TRS. The TRS foot peg is at the Vertigo location. We'll go to the Sherco. The Sherco is kind of, it's the same, it almost looks a little bit higher than the Beta. It's a little bit further back, but in drop, there's no drop in it. So you're just more further back. And then we got the new gas. They're not as far back, but they are dropped. So we'll give this a red, and then we'll throw a point on here. There you have it. So that's interesting to see. And we're talking small differences here. This is, you know, 10, 15 millimeters. But when you ride the bikes, it makes a world of a difference. So that's a brand new gas toggling with Montesa. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then we'll just use our Montesa as a baseline. And we'll go for the older gas. The older gas got a way more clearance on the bottom. You can see there's a gray mark right here. The Beta, compared to Beta, Vertigo, very close, almost at par. The Vertigo has got the lowest cavity. I love it. That's that tank down there. Just putting all that center of gravity down low. Just forget that bike is so freaking planted. I had a 2017 Ice Hell, and man, that thing was just like, it just sits on the ground. It does not want to leave the ground. Matter of fact, it was a little bit harder to wheelie it, just because it felt so planted. It felt like a longer chassis. It almost took a little bit more effort to try to zap it. And that's how the bike behaves. And you watch them through the channels of people riding them, you can see how the bikes behave. And if you've ridden all the brands, it definitely starts the math starts making sense. We've got the TRS toggling with the Montesa. That's pretty cool. I'll throw the Sherco in the mix in there. That's the 2020 Sherco. That's the old frame. What we haven't done is compare the new Shercos yet. We'll do that in a second here. Okay, we'll take the we'll take the Montesa off, and I just want to see. So we haven't done a comparison with the gas. We'll see what gas has changed, and we'll take that off, and we'll make a new layer, which is right here, and we got the 23 gas. Well, hey, they're pretty freaking close. You can see the new gas, dust quite a little bit lower on the skid plate. The cavity is virtually the same. I'm going to use lime green so it's easier to see. So I'm going to do a center line right here. And then we'll toggle on the 23 gas. Yeah, pretty much the cavity is the same. The skid plate is lower. We'll toggle the 2020 on again. The handlebar position is really close. Some years for the bikes, they do play with the bar setup a little bit. You'll get taller bars, or you'll get a little bit shorter bars. That makes a huge difference. I like the bars in the 2020 TRS. They're a little bit easier on my back. You don't get as much fatigue. My Scorpio, I probably need to change something. It feels like I get a lot of back pain riding it. So that is toggling the chassis. Well, okay. That might be a bit of a difference right here. So this is set to the middle. We'll give it a color, and then we'll toggle to the 23. And even though I might be a little bit out of alignment here on rotation, that 23 is a little bit longer chassis, and the axle is set all the way forward, so you can actually make this bike even longer. You can move the axle back. I'm going to toggle my green dot. So if I would have rotated my bike, so yeah, we're talking millimeters here, but the chassis is a little bit longer. That will give you a little bit more stability. Gas. The pipe, you can see the new pipe is sitting a little bit lower. So potentially, if you crash, you will nick your pipe on something. The 2020 gas, the pipe being a little bit higher up, it's nice. It's out of the way. It's not gonna get a dent as easily as if it was exposed. That's really cool. Definitely looks a little bit less busy around this area, around the spark plug area. I haven't seen the bikes in person yet to see how easily it will be to access the plug, but that is your 2020 gas. It looks a little bit tighter for the access here. You see the gas tank is dropping in. We'll toggle the 2023, a little bit roomier. Looks like they've moved the fan. Well, the fan is sitting in the same spot, but less bulkier components. That's probably what gives you a little bit of space there. Oh, the infamous kickstart. So you still have this, I don't want to swear right now, but this tiny little kickstart that everybody hates on the gases. Oh no, that's a 2020. Actually, I think they're giving, never mind. Yes, they've given us a little bit of a bigger landing area for your boot to start the bike. And I did notice on the 23 when I test rode it, it was just butter smooth to start. I loved it. It was awesome. I think that's everybody's biggest pet peeve is the 2020, 21s, and the 22s, the gases, latter generation. They're just a pain in the ass to start. And if you got a bad hip or you're shorter in height and you can't get a good kick to it, it won't go. It's a pain in the butt. You got to really give it a good kick. So let's compare the Shercos. These are kind of the predecessors. you got the new bikes coming out. The Sherco obviously went fuel injected this year. I haven't seen one locally yet. I'm really excited to see one. Hopefully Schomburg gets on one right away, and we'll do a video with him and see what he likes. I'd love to try it too. So we got the old 2020 Sherco, and we'll layer it with the new one. So I can just give it a little bit of an adjustment here. There we go. So the axle and the forks line up a little bit better. Okay, cool. Let's check it out. So the new one, toggling it off. We got the same wheelbase pretty much. Same height on the skid plate. That's wicked. So they've kept, for the most part, they've kept the bike very similar. They did. Yeah, they did mellow out the cavity now. It's not as steep. It looks roomier. That I'm talking the wrong one. Yeah, that's right here. That makes a big difference. So this is your old Sherco. You've got a cavity, and then you got boom, you got a steep angle going up. So they've mellowed it out. That brings the silencer down a little bit, and that's minor. That is minor difference, but I think just from the center of gravity point of view, that's going to make the bike behave differently. The rake is the same. Yep, the rake is the same. Handlebar positioning very close. If anything, they're just rotated more forward. You can see the knuckle. Oh, I call it the knuckle. The knuckle of the handlebar goes down the center of the fork. The motor, because they had to bulk up, well, the motor actually sits a little bit more forward. And that is probably because they needed to create some extra room for the throttle body injection. Hey, CDI box, no more of that. I'm going to miss that. My friends used to make fun of my CDI box all the time. I'm definitely going to miss it. This Sherco image, it was from a different side, so I just flipped it horizontally. I couldn't find any pictures of the side where the exhaust is closer to us. That's unfortunate, but that's kind of what we have to work with. But yeah, for the most part, it's very close. They used a great platform, and they're building on top of it. I would love to see how this feels, because if you're coming up something steep, you're splattering, and your butt needs a little bit of clearance. That's perfect. And that is perfect. And you throw the gas in there. And the gas is right down the middle. You can see right down the middle. So the Sherco gives you the most clearance out of the airbox going into the fender. That's really cool. That's a cool discovery. We'll throw a TRS in there. Oh, the TRS, you can see it's it kind of repeats with the gas, and then it levels out on that. We're gonna throw all the bikes in here. That's really cool. Check this out. The Vertigo is there. This is becoming a mess. This is really cool. We throw a Beta in there. Boom. Very, very cool. Where is our Beta? I'm starting to get lost now. Okay, the Beta's got the same angle as the old Sherco on their rear fender. The Montesa. Montesa's kind of right there with the gas. It's sitting there a little bit shorter. The gas is the longest freaking fender. And I don't know. Even though it's a flexible fender, it's a freaking one piece on the new gas, and somebody local already broke it in half. And even though the guys, sit there and they show it curled up and whatnot, that's the old gas. You can see the fender difference right here. So the new fender on the 2023 gas is quite a ways out there. What are we missing here? We got the TRS. We got pretty much all the bikes in here. That is really neat. I'm gonna zoom this out. That is cool. Okay, guys, thanks for sitting in for this review. This is a long one. This is almost an hour, but I think we're at 50 minutes. But I think it's important. We discovered some things that you'll never know unless you put the profile images of these motorcycles and overlap them, and then you can dissect and you'll understand why those bikes feel different. And thanks for tuning in. Uh, Click that subscribe button. You guys are the more the more subscribers I have, the more you will support my channel and the more content I can make and spend more time doing it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.